Hello, I'm Kimberly Henry, and this is Living the Good Life. In this series, we'll feature conversations around ways to embrace the goodness of life and take a big, juicy bite out of it. Food for the soul and the funny bone. Learn to give more time to yourself, become a better friend, lead an amazing life, and how to tell the best joke at the party. Living the good life can mean different things to different people. Whatever it is for you, I hope you'll find some inspiration here to live your most joyful, authentic life. Now, on to today's conversation. Do you ever get overwhelmed figuring out what to have for dinner every single day? You're not alone. That's me almost all the time. Marie Fiebach, married mother of 4 active kids, founded Feed Your Family Tonight to help busy families eat dinner together at home and recapture a little calm in the crazy. And that is not just for households with families. She's a cookbook author, podcaster, has a weekly cooking segment on her local ABC affiliate, and Marie knows how hard it can be to get dinner together with a hectic lifestyle. She has dealt with picky eaters, food allergies, and busy schedules, but still manages to feed her family a home-cooked meal almost every night. Today, she'll help us learn how to free up some brain space and maximize joy through the act of planning meals. Please welcome my guest, Marie Fiebach. Marie, thanks for being here.
Kimberly, it's a joy. Thanks for having me.
I love it. I've loved listening to your podcast, so I'm excited to be able to maybe pick your brain a little bit and ask some questions around food. People who kind of make this their lifestyle are some of my favorite people because it drives me kind of crazy.
Well,
how did you end up in this?
I started Feed Your Family Tonight in 2017. I had twin girls that were in competitive soccer at the time, and I was working in a job that was a contract job, and I knew the contract was expiring. And so I was looking for what was my next thing going to be. And I took an entrepreneurship class, and the leader of this class walked us through finding our best business idea. And she said, go with what people are asking you about and go with what you know. Well, I'm on the sidelines of these soccer practices and soccer games 3-4 nights a week. And the moms are all saying, we're going to hit the drive-through, go home, eat dinner, get the homework done, get the kids in the bath and get them to bed. And I was doing all of that with them except for hitting the drive-through. And they started asking me how I managed it all because soccer practices are all right in the middle of the dinner hour. And they were like, how do you get it done? And I had to kind of reverse engineer my process. And that became the foundation of Feed Your Family Tonight, where I teach families how to plan and execute dinner, even when life is crazy. And the big piece of it is to look at what your activities and your energy levels are. And if you don't have kids in the home anymore, you're really looking at your energy. So if you've got a day where you have meetings back to back to back, you want to take that into consideration when you're planning your dinners.
So planning, you say that as if I plan my dinners.
Oh, wow. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt for now.
So what does that look like? I mean, because you're right. When life gets busy, and I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, when life gets busy, the first thing that goes is meal preparation. Or, for me, I'm infamous for grabbing a protein bar, which I love. It's easy, but joy would be maybe having something a little more less prepared or less manufactured processed.
Well, first thing is there's no shame in having a protein bar. I mean, we all have days where that happens and no worries there. But if it becomes a habit, then it becomes you're taking a little joy out of your food. And my whole thing with Feed Your Family Tonight is to build a foundation of weeknight dinners so that you can enjoy your family and you can create connection. Because in the end, that's what it's really all about, is about connection. But planning, there's a quote from Dale Carnegie where it says 1 hour of planning can save you 10 hours of doing. And with meal planning, it takes me a good 15, 20 minutes at the beginning of the week, or you might be doing it on the weekends, but it takes 15 or 20 minutes. But what's great about that is once you've spent that time, then you are free of that task. And have you ever had that dinner dread where you wake up in the morning and you know at 5 o'clock at night you're going to have to fix dinner, and it kind of weighs on you and you kind of twirl in your head, well, what can I make? I don't really feel like doing that. I don't have the ingredients for that. That's going to require a trip to the grocery store. And you have all of these little micro decisions that are weighing on you all day. But if you put all of those micro decisions into 20 minutes at the beginning of the week, then your brain space is free to focus on other things the rest of the day.
I think that is so true, because I do, and I still do this. One of the best things I've done is fill my freezer so that I don't have so much of that stress, because at any given moment I can go pull a meal out of the freezer, meat, veggies, throw it together. We're good to go. I at least have something. But that 20 minutes at the beginning of the week now, does that also accompany a trip to the grocery store?
Well, usually I plan and then I go to the grocery store. But here's the thing is there's this wonderful thing called grocery pickup. And most grocery stores these days have it. And most of the time it's even a free service. So when you have your meal plan ready, or even if you're not using a grocery pickup service, your grocery trips are going to be shorter because you know what you really need. And you don't need to take the time wandering the aisles to get inspired, although there is a time and a place for that, especially when you're kind of in a cooking rut. But if you're not in a cooking rut and you've planned well, you know exactly what you need. You can get in and out of the grocery store faster. And here's the other thing. It really helps with the budget because you're not buying the impulse items. And if you're really wanting to tighten your budget and do meal planning, you can follow the seasonal sales that are happening and buy the loss leaders that are on ad that week. So there's lots of angles that you can come at it. But in the end, I talk about this at the beginning of the year at New Year's time. Most New Year's resolutions focus on one of three things: organization, budget, or health. And when you meal plan, you are hitting all three of those pain points for Americans. The meal planning gives you organization. It gives you health because you're not running through the drive-thru. So you're making healthier choices naturally just by cooking at home. And statistics say if you are cooking at home, you're eating more fruits and vegetables too. So that's kind of a fun thing. And then you're also giving yourself a budget boost because you are only buying the things that you really need and you can make wiser choices. So meal planning kind of hits that trifecta of pain points for Americans. And that's why I am such a proponent of it, because it can really help you in so many areas of your life.
It feels like it's something that's taking away my time, taking away my energy. However, I'm just listening to you and I'm thinking, okay, you're eating healthier. You have more fruits and veggies in your diet. So that's going to make you feel better and have more energy, right? And saving on the budget, that's also going to give you the time to spend money, or the money to spend on things that you really want to do with your lifestyle. And who doesn't love an absolutely freshly home-cooked meal?
I love a home-cooked meal. And part of the magic, I have a weekly meal planning sheet, and it's at feedyourfamilytonight.com/plan. And it walks through kind of my 3-step process where you look at your activities or your energy levels. You set your dinner bell where you know your target time when you're going to eat. And in some families, that's the same. In my house, I have 4 teenagers right now, and it is never the same every night because we have different activities all along. And then you plan your meals, but then there's a piece called prep. And I encourage families to do the prep, write the prep on the day that you need to do it, not the day of the meal. And this is going to cause you to be successful. Let me explain a little bit. So if I'm having roast beef for dinner on Sunday, I am going to write on Friday, take the roast out of the freezer. And so that way I've done that prep piece. If I am having red beans and rice on Tuesday, I'm going to write on Monday, soak the beans. And I kind of like to do my prep when I'm cleaning up my dinner dishes. And usually it's just one or two little things that take just a minute or two. But then I'm always set up to fix dinner at 5 o'clock. Anything that I have to do to be ready for dinner that doesn't start at like 5 o'clock at night, I usually put on my prep for either earlier that day or the day before, so that I know that I'm set up for success in the evening. And then here's the magic. I always recommend families have something called a backup. Always have a backup meal. And a backup meal is anything that you can get on the table in 20 minutes or less with ingredients that you have in your house all the time. Because I promise you there's going to be a day when the wheels are going to fall off and you're going to get stuck in a meeting that's not going to work. Or if you're like me, you're stuck at an orthodontist appointment because your kid lost a bracket. I mean, there's a million reasons why your day falls apart, but everyone has days that happens. And instead of going to your protein bar, you can make some bean and cheese quesadillas because you have a can of refried beans, you have a bag of shredded cheese, and you have some tortillas. Or you can make chicken noodle soup because you've got broth in the cupboard and you've got some frozen chicken meat in your freezer and you've got a box of dry noodles, and you can throw that together in 20 minutes or less, because it's going to take you 20 minutes to get to the drive-through and back at a minimum. And so why not just have something at home that you can just fix really fast when things happen?
Isn't that an interesting mindset? Because we do it all the time. Take the time to drive through the drive-through when you could just go home and cook something within 20 minutes. But it feels different. It feels like less work or less investment of time.
It really does, but it doesn't take long. And it has to be really simple meals. And that's the other thing is I'm a food pro, but we eat a lot of really simple food in our house. And the main reason is because I don't have time. And most people don't. So it's okay to have really simple meals.
What does a really simple meal look like for you?
In our house last night, we had roast chicken and I made a big salad and I had some roasted potatoes that were in the oven, but it was all in the oven, totally hands off. I had prepped the chickens actually 2 days before because I had the opportunity to go to dinner at my parents'. So I moved my dinner up one more day, but it's usually a salad. We have very few sides in my house. My children do not prefer cooked vegetables. And so we start off every dinner with a lettuce salad that has different veggies for each person, because those picky eaters, one kid likes cucumbers and one kid likes celery, and they're all different, but we all just have a big salad. And then I usually have the salad and an entree, sometimes a bag of frozen vegetables or some vegetables that I've roasted in the oven. But I'm not making, a meat and 3 sides and a salad. Like, it is a salad and the entree, and that's it.
Pretty much the meat and potatoes type of concept.
Well, it kind of is, but we do it vegetarian too. I mean, on Friday I have on my meal plan, we're having tomato soup and grilled cheese, and we'll have a salad with that, so, but it's a protein, some type of a veggie, usually a salad, sometimes another veggie, and sometimes a starch and sometimes not. I mean, I'm in Kansas. I'm a Midwestern girl, and my husband is a meat and potatoes German kind of guy. And so we do have a lot of that in our house. But again, our meals are simple and not fancy, and it works for us.
Yeah. So how do you take meal planning and meal preparation from this must do, have to do, drudgery kind of thing to a place where you can actually experience some joy and life satisfaction from it? Make it fun.
The big piece is to just start the habit, and it takes a long time to get habits started. So try planning 2 or 3 days. Get that meal planning sheet at feedyourfamilytonight.com/plan and plan 2 or 3 days, and pay attention to how you feel those 2 or 3 days. And my suspicion is you're going to feel good. And then the next week you plan 5 days. And then, there's going to be a week where you forget, and you're going to feel it, and you're going to be like, man, I wish I would have planned my meals. And so you just pick up where you are and start again. It's not anything that has to be cut and dry, a big steadfast rule. Honestly, I post my meal plans on Instagram for my audience every week. And if I weren't committed to posting for my audience, I would probably not do it every week. But I do it for my audience. And in doing that, it helps me and it keeps me on track. And I'm always glad that I've done it. And I will honestly say at least once a week, what I've written on my sheet gets changed for one reason or another, but I have it there to fall back on. And that gives me so much brain space. When you take those micro decisions out and put them into one session, you are going to have so much brain space, and that feeling of dinner dread is going to be lifted. And you just have to try it. Do a couple of days. Don't be grandiose and plan out a whole month. Plan 2 or 3 days and see how it goes and move on from there.
What are some ways or suggestions that you have to elevate a meal, make it feel special without it taking a lot more effort and time?
Okay, one of my biggest things for elevating a meal is simple sauces. And this is a really good thing when you have picky eaters in your family, whether it's your spouse or your kids. A simple sauce can take something that's ho-hum and turn it into something that is like, oh, I kind of appreciate that. And for me, I will use jarred sauces. I will make homemade sauces. I use salad dressings as sauces quite a bit, sometimes from the bottle, sometimes I make them homemade. Right now in my refrigerator, I have a tiny little jar of pesto that's from the grocery store. Like, I didn't make the pesto. I can make pesto, but I'm not going to right now. And I add that to a little bit of mayo or a little bit of sour cream and drizzle it on top of my vegetables or drizzle it on top of my sandwich or my meat. And it's those small little things that make it better. Add a little bit of lemon juice. One thing about food is we often will salt our food to add more flavor, but we forget that acid makes a huge difference. And the difference between Brussels sprouts that have been roasted in your oven with salt and pepper on them, and you add a little bit of lemon juice to them, is night and day. Get a lemon. That is one of my biggest things that I can tell people is if you keep some fresh lemons in your house and just squeeze a little bit of lemon on your food, you are going to be floored at how much it changes your experience. Lemon juice in chicken noodle soup, once you've had lemon juice in chicken noodle soup, you're never going to go back. The touch of acid can take something very, very simple and make it pop. And you can go deeper with sauces too. I mean, my daughter is queen of making a homemade cheese sauce, and she will make a homemade cheese sauce and throw it on top of anything, and it elevates it. I like romesco sauce. Romesco sauce is a sauce that's made with ground almonds and roasted red peppers and sometimes a little bit of spice, and you just whir it up in your food processor or blender, and it adds some earthy depth, and it has a little bit of vinegar in it, so you're getting some acid. And I love throwing romesco sauce on proteins. I'll throw them on some chickpeas on a rice bowl, or I'll throw it on a piece of baked fish that's usually pretty bland. And again, if you've got picky eaters, they eat the bland stuff. The picky eaters can eat all the bland stuff. And those of us that want to be a little more adventurous can add a little romesco sauce or a little bit of pesto mayo or some sriracha sour cream. And little things like that can just take a simple meal and make it something more memorable.
I see a sauce night or a sauce week in my future. And that tip with the lemons on the Brussels sprouts, I may be trying that this week.
Oh my goodness.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm a full-grown adult who did not eat Brussels sprouts until about 2 years ago, maybe 3. And now it's one of my favorite things, but I have not mastered the art of roasting Brussels sprouts.
You want me to give you another tip on roasting Brussels sprouts? If you want to have the ultimate Brussels sprouts, you want to wash them and slice them in half from the pole to pole, so in half down the middle, and then put them in heavily salted. I'm talking like, 2 or 3 tablespoons of salt in a quart of water, and let them boil in the water for like a minute and then take them out. It's technically called blanching if you want to get all fancy about it. Usually when you blanch, you take them from the hot water into an ice bath. I do not mess with that, but cook them in the salted water for just a minute or two, and then put them on your roasting pan with some olive oil or avocado oil. And they've already been salted, so you don't have to salt them. Roast them at a really high heat, like 400 degrees, until they start to get brown and crispy. Take them out and squeeze a little lemon juice over the top, and then put a little of that lemon zest from the outside of the lemon on them. You'll never change how you make Brussels sprouts again. And if you want to take that to the next level, instead of oil, use bacon fat, and then there's no turning back.
Oh my goodness. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing.
So good.
Okay. Y'all watch for a picture of my adventures in our Facebook group, because I think we'll be doing that this week. That sounds amazing. What do you love to cook?
I love myself a good roast chicken. There is just something about a whole chicken. And when I do roast chicken, I always prep it the night before because my kitchen's already a mess. And I put the salt underneath the skin with a little bit of poultry seasoning. And then I let it sit in the refrigerator in a roasting pan, but open to the air. And the refrigerator air dries out the skin. And then I take it out of the refrigerator and put it in the oven and let it cook for about an hour and a half. And when it comes out, you have this juicy chicken meat because the salt has penetrated deep into the meat, and the crispy, crispy skin because the air of the refrigerator has dried out the skin. And a roast chicken is just the gift that keeps on giving, because you have roast chicken and then you usually have some leftover chicken meat, and you can take the bones and you can put them in your slow cooker with some water and veggies and let that cook until the next night, and you end up with bone broth. And there's just something really nourishing and really special about a roast chicken, but it's so special because it could not be more simple. It is meat and salt. And it's so basic, but when done well, can just be one of the best meals you've ever had.
It's so primal. It's something that we've all probably grown up with. Most of us have had chicken broth or chicken soup in our history, and that roasted chicken reminds me of cooking 20 or 30 years ago.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was a child of the 80s, and my mother, you couldn't get boneless, skinless chicken breasts at the grocery store without paying an arm and a leg. Like, that wasn't a thing. Like, the only time we had chicken was a whole chicken, or maybe sometimes she would get chicken legs, but it wasn't as prevalent to be able to get separate cuts of the chicken as it is now. And so, yeah, a roast chicken's what I grew up with. And when my mother makes roast chicken, she serves it with stuffing and I mean, stuffing and a little bit of gravy, which I don't usually do, but it's like Thanksgiving without the turkey. So I love that.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of Thanksgiving, that's coming up. How do you manage that meal without a lot of stress?
Well, I have a holiday planning guide that actually has a Thanksgiving planner inside of it. And the thing about Thanksgiving is you want to plan ahead. You want to make sure you know who your guests are going to be, and make your menu way ahead of time. If the guests are bringing things, let them, and assign items according to someone's gifts and talents. So let me give you an example. If your brother-in-law is always late to dinner, do not have him be the one bringing wine, because no one wants to be sitting around without their drinks when they first show up at the Thanksgiving dinner. But if he makes a mean cherry pie, well, then you say, hey, can you bring one of your cherry pies? So you assign things according to people's talents. The big thing with Thanksgiving is you have to have a timeline, and you have to start cooking ahead of time. So 2 to 3 days ahead, I am roasting my sweet potatoes because I'm going to make them in my sweet potato casserole. I will even get casseroles completely assembled and in the freezer. You're going to have to thaw them on Wednesday so that they have time to cook on Thursday. But there's so much stove time and oven time management when you're doing Thanksgiving dinner that you really need to write down the times that you are cooking everything. and make sure you thaw your turkey in time. If you are doing a large turkey by Friday or Saturday before Thanksgiving, it needs to be in your refrigerator thawing. But here's the thing. I've got a little tip. If you forget to thaw your turkey, you can do a frozen turkey breast in your Instant Pot in about an hour and a half. So if you forget or you're cooking for a small amount of people, it's better if you thaw it and roast it. Like a turkey breast tastes better roasted in the oven. But if you are in a pinch, you can do a turkey breast from frozen in an hour and a half.
Good tips. So if we're knocking on Wednesday and that turkey's not close to thawed out, just run to the store and get
you were supposed to go to someone's house and someone in their family gets ill and Thanksgiving is all of a sudden canceled at the last minute, which could happen to a lot of us this year. You just don't know with weather and sickness that you can get a frozen turkey breast and you can do it in your Instant Pot.
Great tip. It's been a pleasure, Marie. Do you have any other tips or thoughts to share with us before we let you go?
My biggest thing is just to encourage you is that weeknight dinners can be kind of a rush and can be kind of stressful for a lot of people and a lot of families. And if you just think a little bit ahead and you manage your energy levels, try and fix meals that work with your activities of the day. So if you have a day where you have meetings back to back to back, that is a day where you want something that is out of your freezer or something that's in your slow cooker ready to go when you get home. Other days where you've got a lighter day and you've got a little bit more time, that's when you can cook something like a stir fry where you're standing at the stove cooking for 20 or 30 minutes before you sit down to eat. So as you plan your meals and as you think about that, think about your energy levels and your activities and plan meals that work with your real life. Don't try and find a recipe and shove it into a life and you're all harried and overwhelmed. Try and make sure that your meals work with what your reality is on any given day.
Great advice. And just one last question for you, Marie. When you think of living the good life, what does that look like for you?
For me, living the good life is having the time to cherish my family. I love quiet Sunday afternoons, playing board games with my daughters, and I love my weekly Friday night date with my husband, and sometimes it's at my son's football games, and sometimes we go to a coffee shop, but just having connection with the people that I care about on a regular basis is the good life to me.
I love that response. I concur. Where can folks find you if they want to reach out or learn more about what it is that you do?
Sure. My website is feedyourfamilytonight.com, and I had the Feed Your Family Tonight podcast, which you can get to from my website or on your favorite podcast player. I'm on Instagram at MarieFiebach, but feedyourfamilytonight.com will get you to just about everywhere I'm at.
Fantastic. We'll put all of those links in the show notes as well. So folks.
Oh, thanks, Kimberly.
It's been a great pleasure, Marie. Thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Oh, the joy has been mine. Take care.
Be sure to check the show notes for links mentioned in this episode and join us in the Living the Good Life Facebook community for previews of each episode, the opportunity to pose questions directly to our guests, bonus content, and a community of people committed to living their best life and sharing the journey. Thanks for listening. Let us know what value you received from this episode and what you'd like us to explore in the future in the comments. And please take a moment to drop us a like or some stars. I'm Kimberly Henry. Let's get out there and live the good life.